Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Tempcast, episode number 9. This is the official GBAtemp podcast. And today I'm joined by Eric
Hey guys, what's going on?
and special guest Steven.
Heyo, what's up?
And they call me the Alan John. Today we're starting off with probably the biggest gaming-related news that happened this week, which says quite a lot about this week in gaming-related news. It's the reveal, the official reveal of the PlayStation 5 UI. That's right. Last week we had a teardown of the PlayStation 5 so we could see what it presents itself in the hardware side, but this week we see what it's like on the software. So Sony officially released a video on YouTube in 4K, 60 FPS, detailing most, I'd say, of their new updated UI with some interesting things here and there. But first and foremost, before saying any of my opinions, I want to get our resident PlayStation expert, Ericzander, to talk about his thoughts.
I just want to correct that. He's actually our resident PlayStation page shill. It's been documented for a long time if you look at the PlayStation Plus free game threads. So,
All right, get out of here. Yes, I am indeed the resident PlayStation expert. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I cared more about the software video than the hardware video personally, just because that's sort of what I'm going to be. I mean, that's what we're going to be actually seeing while we're playing games. So I thought that it was cool. We saw an official, it's like an 11.5-minute video. It's up on the site as well. I pointed out in that thread that it highlighted sort of some cool new features. There's going to be a new control center. There's this new on-screen cards. They call them activities that you can sort of access in the game that should show you basically what tasks you have left to complete in your game, how long the system thinks you're going to be doing that. And some games will have like a little progress tracker as well, which I know is available on a lot of Xbox titles already, but it's interesting that it's finally coming to Sony systems since, they've been doing that since the Xbox 360. So that's pretty cool. They're changing how to join parties. There's the picture-in-picture mode, which is kind of interesting, how you could have sort of several things going on your screen at once. I hope that actually looks really well. But what I thought was really cool was the new homepage. It just looks very integrated to me. They sort of threw the PlayStation Store on the homepage instead of having to open an extra app. So that's just some great way for Sony to get all of that extra money from us, and of course they deserve it, right? What do you think about this, Steven?
I thought a lot of the features were interesting. Like the picture-in-picture stuff is cool. I don't know, but I'm not sure the practical use of a lot of it. Like the screen sharing feature has been on the PS4 for a while now, and maybe I'm alone on this, but I find I never really use it. Like I don't really sit around. If I'm gonna watch someone play a game, I'm usually in the same room as them, right? Like it's not something that you go out of your way to get online and watch someone else play. And if you're playing another game, it's just distracting to try and watch someone else at the same time that they're doing it. The activity tracker and the whole cards thing, where you'll get individual cards for different trophies or missions you might need to complete or whatever. That's really interesting, but I'm skeptical. I'm sure it'll be used a lot for Sony's first-party games. It's the kind of thing I'm skeptical of if third-party developers will put in the work to really, make that work. Because there's a lot of functions like that on consoles where they'll try to do something cool, but it's just not worth the extra effort on the side of developers. Like, I think even trophies, when they first started, a lot of developers didn't put them into their games because it just wasn't, before it was mandatory, because there was just no incentive for them to do so. And I don't know if the activities thing is going to end up being the same.
I think I agree with you there. I think that not a lot of third-party developers are going to be using the activities feature, especially if, they're multi-plat games. I'm sure maybe not most, but many of the ones that'll just be exclusive for PS5 will use them.
Hopefully.
Yeah, but it seems like a lot of extra development. I think it's cool that it's a feature, though, but yeah, I don't think that it's going to be a widely used feature.
Yeah, it is definitely cool. I like the idea that if you're in the middle of a game and you want to go to a different activity, you can just choose the card and the game will load up that area of the game, that level or whatever it is. So you don't even need to navigate around the in-game menus.
Mm-hmm.
which, depending on the game, could be a bit of a hassle.
What's your guys' opinion on the fact that if you're a PlayStation Plus subscriber, you get access to these video guides, I guess, about how to finish like specific levels or get even specific achievements?
I did see that. I don't have a very strong opinion about it because I know how easy it is to just pull up your phone and look up a guide if you get stuck. So I wouldn't say that this is a good reason at all to get PlayStation Plus. Like, if you're not getting PlayStation Plus because you have to play online, this isn't that much of a encouragement. I think that the bigger encouragement to get PlayStation Plus, aside from the fact that you have to play online, is the games that you get on the PS5, the PS4 games. The PS Plus collection is what it's called, which I think is kind of interesting. But this is definitely not a reason to get it. It doesn't really do anything for me.
One thing they mentioned is the fact that you can get access to these guides without getting spoiled. I thought that was very interesting because I think anybody can relate to this. When you're stuck at some point in a game and you're like, okay, how do I free this character from the fucking cage? And then Google just autofills it with some kind of spoiler. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they incorporate these kind of guides into games such as the upcoming Demon Souls remake. I'd really be interested to see what an official video guide for that game would look like, because it also says like how many minutes it should take to finish a level. So with a game like Demon Souls, I wonder how long it would take on average to finish an area in that game.
I wonder where it gets that average from. If it like, does it try to estimate based on how long it took you to get that far in the level, that's how long it'll take you to finish, or is it just a predetermined number for everybody?
So the game they showed this feature was Sackboy. What's it called? Sackboy Adventures, Sackboy 3D World.
A big adventure.
Whatever. It seems to me like, no offense to Sackboy fans, all 12 of you, but this game doesn't look that difficult. It looks like, just a standard platformer type of game. So yeah, I could see you saying level 7 takes 10 minutes to finish. Okay. However, with other games, I don't see it. I don't know if somebody could say Sen's Fortress in Dark Souls. Yeah, you could finish that in like 20 minutes or so, give or take.
Yeah, I don't know. I would hope that it's a number that changes. Like, if it tries to track how long it takes you to get in a level, that's the only way I could see it making sense. Because for, like you said, something like Dark Souls, it's so variable depending on the player's skill level.
I know it's funny that you say that the Sackboy game looks really easy, because it does look really easy. I just want to say I've played Little Big Planet 3. That was one of the hardest platinums that I ever had to get.
Oh, really?
And I've done like 90 plus platinums. And I mean, it wasn't particularly hard, but it was definitely one of the rarest ones that I've gotten. That doesn't mean much, but they're not always very easy games. But I see why they used that as an example, because that's a first-party title that probably is going to have all of these unique Sony features for the PS5 just to show everything off, whereas most other titles won't. So maybe the game's easy, maybe it's not. It doesn't matter. But what I think is interesting is the fact that these are going to be official guides. Does that mean that the developers are always going to be the ones who make these guides? Like, I know that there's people who make like very good video guides that are spoiler free, like the PS5 trophies guy. I think his username is like Wazamil or something. He's been doing this since the PS3 days, just making short little videos on how to get certain trophies. And like on PSN profiles and PlayStationTrophies.org, people who write written guides, they link to his videos, and they're just short and sweet. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about, or some people who are listening to this have seen his videos. I think it'd be cool if users like him will be able to upload his video guides, or developers can pull from that, because I even think that he and maybe some other people actually do get games early in order to make walkthroughs. So that'd be pretty cool. Sort of saying, hey, we're giving this ability to the actual gamers, not us, the gamers. And, it's just a cool little thing like that I hope that they'll do.
That's interesting. I didn't know people like him get games early to do walkthroughs and stuff. I don't think they'll open it up to the community because it would just be too hard to police. But I could see them tapping well-known people, especially if they do give them early access. And I mean, that also goes back to what I was saying about the other features, where like when I saw that, my first thought was like, I can't imagine developers doing that for even a majority of the trophies or activities in these games that they make. It just, I don't know, it just wouldn't seem like a priority to me.
Yeah, which is why I think that it would be prudent for them to, instead of having to have the people who are creating the game make the walkthroughs, just find, okay, this guy, even if it's like a couple weeks out and this guy just makes a couple of videos, they're like, all right, we can now integrate this into the game, even if it's not there at release. I'm not saying they'll do that. That's just what I would do if I was in charge of everything at Sony, which unfortunately I'm not, because if I was, the PlayStation 5 would be free. You're welcome.
Man of the people.
Yeah, another interesting thing about the sort of the new user interface is that a lot of the features seem like they're already connected online. Like, what if your system is offline? Like, are the cards going to work? You're not going to be able to watch the videos probably. I don't know if it's taking up hard drive space or if you're streaming the videos. It's just, I wonder how bare the user experience will be if you just aren't connected to the internet. Just a little curious.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I never thought about that. I don't know. I mean, the videos probably wouldn't take up too much hard drive space. They look pretty short, but I guess if they do pull them from the community, then that might require an internet connection or at least an update to get them installed.
You know, speaking of those videos, they were actually quite low quality. I'd say maybe like 360p. I don't know if that was an issue with buffering, but my theory is that what if all those video files, if compressed enough, come already with the game? Now, this is an insane theory, but kind of makes sense if you think about it. Making a text guide, that would take like a couple of megabytes, but adding a couple of videos here and there, maybe just a couple of megabytes more. I don't know. You know, considering they're quite short, as Steven said, and low quality, like they're not even 720p, I'd say, from what I saw. So they might just incorporate them with every game. Like, this might be the video game manual of the 21st century.
If they're incorporated with the game, I hope that there would be an option to not download them at all, especially because, you know, a lot of people are going to be running out of hard drive space or solid state drive space, I guess. So it would be nice if that was an option to either toggle on or off. But yeah, they didn't really make it clear on if they're streaming this or if they're playing it directly from their system. If they're streaming it, I think that would be the way to go, because, you know, then it's not taking up the hard drive space. But even so, like those guides might not be even the best guides to use. Like you might be better off just looking something up on YouTube and risk the spoilers. Or you could be a man like me and never use walkthroughs, except I use walkthroughs. But you could just not use walkthroughs.
I feel like the best option would be to go to YouTube for stuff like that, because I find with the PS4's UI now, and obviously it's, you know, it's a lot older, it's aged, and it's not going to fare as well as it did when it first launched, but it takes so long to do anything on the PS4 right now. Like, even just getting into a party or sending a message takes so long to load up that, I don't know, I feel like within a few years of this, it's not going to be worth the time to try and load up the in-game guides. It's just going to be faster to go on YouTube or, you know, grab it up on your phone or something, right?
I suppose, but on the PlayStation 5, you have picture-in-picture mode, so you could, in theory, simultaneously play your game and, you know, watch a video on the same screen while having a phone. You just have to keep looking down at your phone, then back on your screen. I don't know.
That's true. Yeah, that's fair.
Well, yeah, I do know that oftentimes if I'm playing a game, because, you know, I've mentioned this on the podcast, I have to platinum basically everything that I play, just because my brain works that way. There's a lot of times where I'm doing like really menial tasks on repeat, and I just want to watch something while I'm doing that mindlessly, which is usually fine for me because I could watch something on my laptop or on my phone while I'm playing the game. But, you know, not everybody has that luxury. So I think it would be cool to be able to watch Netflix over here, play the game over here. But it's also not like back in the PS2 days or even earlier where you you have to look up a guide, so you have to go onto your desktop computer, and then you have to print things out and then walk back. It's like, no, I got my phone with me. I'll just look up what I have to do on my phone, you know. So we've definitely things have gotten easier recently, I think. So I think they're just trying to make it all, make the user experience as easy as possible, keep everything on one screen. So I think that these are all good things. Whether or not they'll all be incorporated, I like that they have the options. They don't seem super gimmicky to me. I've seen gimmickier things in the past, but this doesn't seem like one of them.
I never considered that you might be able to get like a Netflix card and put that picture in picture with your thing. That would actually be pretty handy for more mindless games.
Most of you people know that I work sometimes as a freelance graphic designer, so everybody on the forums wondering, what does Alan John think about the PlayStation 5 UI from a graphical design point of view? And my opinion is, it's okay.
Nice.
All right, it's clean. It's got, some shadows. Nice, slick, 60 FPS animations. I like that. It seems to be quite responsive. I didn't see any lags. But then again, if Sony was daft enough to show a video of their UI and have at least one frame of lag in it, that wouldn't be good. But a thing I want to touch upon here is the fact that Sony showed their UI at 4K 60 FPS. Now, that seems obvious because we know that the next generation systems are 4K capable, so it would make sense to have their UI at 4K 60 FPS. I don't know for a fact that the UI would work at 120 FPS because we've heard, stuff about, the console supporting 4K 120. We don't know if it's going to be on every game, but you'd think the UI would support it. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because we've actually seen the UI of the Xbox Series S and X. And guess what? That UI isn't running at 4K. It's not even running at 2K. It's running at 1080p 60 frames per second. At least that's what Digital Foundry found out when they had the time with the console. Then again, this is like a pre-production unit. We don't know if they're going to upscale it to 4K natively. But so far, like, PlayStation's winning in the UI game. Like, it's higher resolution, at least 4 times as more. So, yeah, that's kind of strange.
I guess, but I don't know. I don't know if the resolution on the UI is a big deal. Like, I would rather, like I said before, my PS4 seems to run so slow trying to do anything. If running in 4K is going to slow that down even a little bit, I would rather it just be 1080p. I don't need the UI to look super fancy, right?
There are Android phones that can run their basic UI in 4K 60 frames per second. Like,
oh, really?
Actually, coincidentally, the Sony phones do that. The Sony Xperia phones, the 2 Mark V or the 5 Mark II, whatever. They got stupid names. That's why nobody buys those phones. Their latest phone has a 4K screen and it's at 60 frames per second. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about the fact that we're only getting this kind of information after all the pre-orders and stuff have happened? Do you think Sony should have been more upfront with this kind of stuff before making people jump through all the pre-order hoops?
Probably from a sort of not marketing standpoint, from just my own personal standpoint, I'd say, yeah, why didn't Sony just throw everything up at us up front? But then from the marketing standpoint, it's like, yeah, you want to spoon feed us this stuff so we're constantly getting excited about it, because they knew that they were going to run out of pre-orders anyway. So just, here's the hardware, here's the software, here's this, here's that, and it's like, oh, we're constantly talking about the PS5, whereas if they just said in August, hey, here's everything, because that they had this already in August.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, it costs $500 or $400, whatever. Yeah, if they did all of that at once, we would pre-order and we wouldn't be talking about it right now. Well, we probably would because we're doing a gaming podcast, but people in general wouldn't.
They wouldn't be building that hype week after week. But so the UI is one thing, but there's been more and more news coming out about the PS5 that I think could sour it for some people, and I think it's I don't know. It's odd that they weren't more upfront about this before the pre-orders. And I'm not sure how I feel about it. So one of the big stories that happened right before we recorded last week is they released more details about the backwards compatibility on the PlayStation 5. And essentially every game, they said the vast majority of their games are going to work, except for 10. There's not any huge titles on that list of 10 that won't work. Afro Samurai 2, DWVR, Hitman Go, Joe's Diner, Just Deal With It, TT Isle of Man, Robinson the Journey, Shadow Complex Remastered, Shadwin, and We Sing. So I think, other than Shadow Complex and Hitman Go, I don't know if any of those are games that people really care about. I heard a couple people talking about Afro Samurai, but I don't really know what that is, honestly.
I think that's an anime.
Is it?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it is.
So that's fine. That's not, the end of the world, I guess. So here's the other thing that caught my attention. Although many PlayStation 4 games are playable on PlayStation 5 consoles, some functionalities that were available on the PlayStation 4 console may not be available on PlayStation 5 consoles. In addition, some PS4 games may exhibit errors or unexpected behavior when played on PS5. Before purchasing any add-ons to play with your PS4 games on PS5 consoles, please try to boot and play your PS4 games on your PS5 console to see if you are happy with the play experience.
Okay.
It's very vague, but it's an odd warning to put out because specifically the part about please play your games before you buy more add-ons for them. It almost seems like Sony is expecting that if people see the performance on the PS5 from PS4 games, they would expect a refund or something. And, Sony doesn't want to deal with it. They're telling people to make sure before they buy, right?
Yeah, well, here's my position, because I know a lot of people are reading into this, and I'm not saying you're doing it, but a lot of people are mad about this. They're like, oh, the backwards compatibility isn't going to work, and Sony knows this, and they're trying to skirt around it. I don't see it that way. I see it as sort of, it's legal speak. It's a general disclaimer like, hey, we're not going to test every single game of the 4,000 plus games, so there might be some things that don't work. I just think that it's a general disclaimer or a general warning, sort of like, hey, don't get the shampoo in your eye. It's like, whoa, why is this? What will happen if I get shampoo in my eye? Am I going to have to go to the hospital? Am I going to have to, call poison control? It's like, no, it's just some idiots who will get poison or get shampoo in their eye are gonna sue the shampoo company. So I don't think that this is a bad thing. I mean, because let's say they didn't give a warning. Let's say they never say anything about the backwards compatibility or how it won't support every single game, because we know it can't do that. It's not taking the entire PS4 architecture and shoving it in there. That, I guess that's more of a PlayStation 3 PS2 thing. But whatever. If they didn't do that, and then some games don't work, ooh, that would be a disaster.
Yeah.
I think that this is sort of them covering their bases, being extra careful. And I think it's good for them as a company to be precautious about that. But, according to GBAtemp, I'm a paid Sony shill anyway. So.
Yeah, you're probably right, but it is worth pointing out that Xbox is very confidently saying that every Xbox One game can be played on the Series X. They don't feel the need to cover themselves like that.
I'm going to go out of my way to find something that doesn't work on the Xbox. I'm going to find it. I'm going to sue them. Be like, I couldn't play Cubic. Oh, I can't say that word. I'm going to play a game on the and I couldn't do this certain feature, and I demand justice. Me and my mother are going to sue Microsoft for what, $5 million?
$5 million.
I get that reference.
Hey guys, check out Tempcast episode 7.
I think it was 8.
That was 8. All right. Well, yeah, like I said in an earlier Tempcast, this whole thing is a series. You will be very confused if you don't watch every single Tempcast in chronological order, not in story order, but in order of release date.
Hashtag justice for Rick Moranis.
Yes, we're going to have prequel Tempcast. We're going to be speculating about the PlayStation 4,
Yeah.
Going back in time, talking about the failed 3DS launch. We're going to do it.
The Tempcast time travel arc, that's just so confusing. Like is it a linear timeline? Is it do we create split timelines? Whatever.
We're gonna go lost on this bit.
Yeah, get caught up on your Tempcast lore.
I think for April Fools, we should release a lost episode from the original Tempcast, which is us recording it and pretending it's 2007.
Nice. Nice.
Put music in the background like they always did in podcasts back then.
We have music in our podcast. It's pretty dope.
The beginning and end.
Yeah.
So another note of incompatibility, backwards incompatibility, is with the PS4 camera. So the PSVR headsets are going to work with the PlayStation 5, but the camera that you run, that you need to use it, I don't have a PSVR, I don't know why you need the camera. I guess it needs to track your movements. That isn't going to work with PS5 games, but the PS5 camera won't work with PS4 games. And in fact, the plug for the PS4 camera isn't even on the PS5, so you need to buy a separate adapter if you want to keep using your PS4 PSVR games.
Yeah. And yep, just to counter anybody who says that I'm a shill, I think that is ridiculous. That makes me actually pretty upset. I don't understand why there would be a technical reason why the PS4 camera cannot work on the PS5. It's one of those things where it's like, you're also not going to be able to use your PS4 controllers to play PS4 games on the PS5, right?
You can use your PS4 controller to play PS4 games. You can't use it to play PS5 games.
Okay, cool. Then that's fine. But I'm confused as to why Sony would choose not to let the PS4 camera work, period, on the PS5. That seems like a bad decision to me. I don't know the hardware side of it, but I find it hard to believe that there was no way to make it work.
So it is worth pointing out that the PS5 camera is 1080p and the old one is 720. And I guess there's a few new features in there. But the thing that's strange to me is they can't make the PS5 camera work on the PS4. And I guess, again, from a technical standpoint, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but it's such a hassle. It just is starting to seem more and more cumbersome every time they talk about these backwards compatibility features. And the fact that they weren't upfront about it before the pre-orders it just seems shady to me, because there's really no reason to get one of these at launch. There's very few games that is exclusive to the PS5. I think Demon Souls and Sackboy are the only two out of the launch library that's not also coming to PS4. And so I think the main reason people would be getting these is to improve their PS4 library, and then to have these sort of caveats and these little things come out. And again, it doesn't spell doom or anything, but it feels like it would have been right to let people, to be upfront with people before they spend whoever knows how long camping out or waiting, refreshing a web page, and then they drop $500 or $600 on it, depending on, because certain retailers only put up the bundles that came with extra controllers and stuff too. So some people ended up needing to shell out extra for the console.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably eventually going to get a PS5, but probably not at launch because of the fact that there's not going to be a whole lot of exclusives. And one of the exclusives that you said was a remake. So,
yeah.
And I'm interested in it, and I'll get it eventually. But yeah, from a marketing standpoint, of course, they want to say, "Wow, look at all of our hardware. The PS4 camera isn't incompatible. Dude, look at all of our software. Well, there's some errors with the so they're throwing that in there.
Yeah, and it was even there's even more and more stuff coming out about the backwards compatibility in terms of saves coming over. We talked a little while ago about the Miles Morales the Spider-Man remaster. You can't use your PS4 saves, but there are certain games. It looks like Yakuza and Dirt 5 are the two that I have here, but there might be a few others where you can't carry your PS4 save over, even if you're still using the PS4 version on the PS5.
What?
Yeah. And for the record, that is not a thing on Xbox either. If you have the Xbox One version, you get the Xbox Series whatever version, and you can use your old save. On this one, again, Dirt 5 and Yakuza are the two I'm seeing here. You just can't carry your save files over for some reason.
I'm trying to think of a good reason to, if I were to buy a PS5, to not sell my PS4 to get the cost. What's the good reason to keep a PS4 if you're getting a PS5? I guess if you really want to play Afro Samurai?
I guess. No, and you're right about that. It's not enough that people are going to, hang on to their PS4s or not get the PS5 at all, but it's just, I don't like the drip feed of information after they get people hyped, after they get people to spend their money, to then say well, that's not going to work, and well, that's going to be a bit of a pain, and well, you're going to have to get that adapter. And
well, Sony seems pretty confident about this whole situation because, I mean, they're expecting the PS5 to outsell the PS4 like on launch, right? Like,
Yeah, they think I can get the exact number here, but they had so the PS5 will outsell the PS4 launch with over 7 million sales by April.
Wow.
So they think in the first 6 months they're gonna get 7 million sales.
well,
Oh, in its first 4 months, sorry, not 6.
oh, yeah, even crazier.
Or wait, I guess 5.5, 4, whatever it is, something like that.
Okay, even crazier, but less crazier than the crazy thing. Will it? I don't know. Is it? I guess it's a big leap, but the games aren't quite there yet. But I think that over time this will be a good value because there's not a whole lot of launch game exclusives, but even when the PS4 came out, a lot of them were for PS3 as well.
Sorry, I'm just getting caught up on this because it's such a weird thing. Why do they think they're going to outsell their old system in the middle of a pandemic?
Probably more pre-orders, I think.
Maybe. Yeah, I guess. You could be right about that, but I don't know. Is there, maybe you can tell me this, Eric, is there any like negative consequence of them building up expectations among their shareholders, and then if they don't meet them, like could that go bad for them? Because it just seems weird to me to get people excited expecting this giant financial windfall from this and setting specific expectations of 7 million when that just seems unreasonable to me.
In the absence of fraud, probably not. Yeah, you want to you want to be upfront with your shareholders and stakeholders and say, hey, this is this is what we're messing up and this is what we're doing good with. But you can as a person as a CEO of a company, you can embellish things to a certain extent. So if there's a reasonable basis to say that they're in good faith saying that the PS5 can outsell the PS4 in this amount of time, and it's not like obviously bullshit, if they can come up with a genuine reason, like, oh well, we were wrong, but we thought that it was going to do it, I don't think that it's going to have any legal consequences anyway. But there's also the fact that Sony is big, and PlayStation's a big part of it, but it's not even the biggest part of Sony.
No, you're right. Yeah, and I didn't mean legal consequences as much as like it might piss off investors or something, but you're right. I guess Sony's big enough that it won't really probably won't affect them much.
Yeah, well, because you mentioned investors, Sony's stonk has gone down
Oh no.
4.61% in the past month. So, I guess, it looks like PlayStation, when they started talking more about it, it went up. Okay, yeah, it went up, but then it started to go back down. So,
Damn.
I'm losing a tiny bit of money on Sony, but yeah, so I don't think that what happens with PlayStation has a giant impact on Sony's stock price, which, to Sony is, honestly, everything financially is like, they want to, yeah, so will it piss off investors? Probably not a whole lot. I think investors care just mostly about how things fluctuate, and they don't actually care about the company itself. I don't know. 92% of analysts say buy Sony, so
Okay.
that's not me. I'm not an analyst, but now it's a buyer's market. It's a seller's market. I don't know.
You're listening to the official Sony PlayStation podcast. We've talked about the Sony PlayStation 5 for around like 30 minutes or so. So I think it's time for us to leave the PlayStation 5 alone for a couple of minutes.
And start talking to our sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends.
No,
Woo!
no,
Can go.
this is not true. We are not sponsored by anybody. But hey, if you actually want to sponsor our podcast, please message us at... Wait, we still don't have an email.
At Alan John's user page on GBAtemp. Just leave him a message on there.
But if you sign up for Raid Shadow Legends using our code, you could get 3 free fighters. I don't know. How does that game work? I love the game. I play it every day on my mobile smartphone.
Yeah, join our official Tempcast clan and you'll get like 5 coins.
Yeah. Woo! We're going to be in a clan. Okay, yeah. What do you want to talk about instead, man?
We're going to be talking about this new segment we have in the Tempcast. Previous episodes came out and a lot of people contacted me personally and asked, hey, why didn't you talk about this? Or why didn't you talk about this? I got thousands of messages from angry fanboys like, hey, you're a Nintendo shill because you didn't talk about this thing or that thing. Or, hey, you're an Xbox shill because you didn't talk about PlayStation's new Gizmo, whatever. Guys, we got you covered. We got a new segment. It's called Small Things. We're working on the naming, okay? But this is a new segment. We're going to be talking about the small, well, relatively speaking, small news things that happened in the past week related to gaming. So first thing first, Mass Effect Legendary, also known as the Mass Effect Collection, has been rated in Korea for the Switch, if I recall correctly. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, guys, I think we all know that EA hasn't been playing nicely with the Switch. I mean, they've basically denied its existence for the longest time, and the only games from EA that are on the Switch are basically sports games, I think, with only FIFA being constantly released on it. Mass Effect is an EA property, so it seems that they have taken this stuff seriously, and supposedly this has been rumored for quite a long time. They're bringing the Mass Effect Trilogy to the Switch. So, do we have any Mass Effect fans on this podcast?
No.
Well, no. We would have had one if we had Jordan on, but no.
Damn it. Jordan's a Mass Effect nut.
Honestly, Jordan's a nut for a lot of the things that we talk about.
Resident Evil,
yeah.
Metallica. Wow.
Yeah, we talk about Metallica a lot.
Yeah, I mean, still, the Black Album is pretty good. I don't get what's the controversy.
I don't get why Steven hates it so much.
I remember asking about this on my GBAtemp profile, and Alexander, this is Alexander 1970's words, all right? He says that people who don't like the Black Album have shit for brains. That's basically what he said.
Whoa.
Steven,
Wow.
I didn't say that. Okay, it's Alexander's opinion,
Wow.
probably about you. So,
All right, I'll take care of that later.
so yeah, that's the first thing.
Yeah.
The minor news, because, well, it hasn't released yet, but usually when these things hit the rating boards, they're very close to release, like at maximum a month out. So this is actually great news. And in fact, the recent Konami collections were also leaked beforehand on Taiwan rating boards, and then were subsequently released like within a week after those leaks. So this is a good sign for those Mass Effect fans who want to play it on the go. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's also worth pointing out it was also listed for PS4 and Xbox One, I believe.
Oh,
it wasn't
okay.
just the Switch.
Okay, that makes sense. They'd remaster those games.
And November 7th, I guess, is a day where EA, I don't know, they use that to announce Mass Effect stuff because the organization in it is called N7. So if it's going to be announced, it would probably be then.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like what other EA games are on the Switch. Like Unravel, that's an EA game, right? Is that on this? I think the second one's on Switch, but
Maybe.
no, I don't know. And Burnout, is any of those? I don't know. Whatever.
I'm not sure. Do
I don't care.
you want me to grab my Switch and check?
No, please don't.
Hey, you want to grab my Switch?
Okay, guys. I'm sick of your fantasies. Okay, that has to be your final fantasy right there. You twins. That's your final fantasy. Yeah, you guys hear about the Final Fantasy Twin Pack? That was a good one, right? Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Excellent work.
That has been announced recently, right?
Yeah, it has been
Yeah.
announced recently. Indeed, Eric, thank you for telling us this news that it has been recently announced. No, actually, yeah, Final Fantasy VII and 8 Remastered. Please don't think of this as Final Fantasy VII Remake, because remake and remastered are different things for some reason.
Well, the Final Fantasy VII one also wasn't remastered at all. It just had a few new extra features put in, whereas the Final Fantasy VIII was actually remastered.
Yeah, so Final Fantasy VII was actually released digitally for the Switch. I don't know if it's called Final Fantasy VII Remastered or whatever, but
No, it's just called 7.
okay, so... Oh, Final Fantasy VIII is called Remastered. I'm sorry, I didn't read the title right because I'm an idiot.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Final Fantasy VII and 8 are not just being announced, they're also getting a physical release on the Switch and PlayStation 4, it seems.
I think it's only Final Fantasy VIII Remastered that's getting the physical release on PS4, but the twin pack is coming to Switch.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense because the PlayStation 4 already has its own version of Final Fantasy VII, though people have told me those are completely different games. So that's interesting. I don't know. I haven't played either.
They are completely different.
Yeah, I mean, these are just physical releases of games that already had digital versions. Like the Final Fantasy VII and VIII Remastered have been available digitally on Switch for at least a year, if not two, and I think same thing on PS4. So, I don't know. It's cool that they're getting a physical release in Europe, and I don't know. I guess it shows that these must be selling strongly if Square Enix is trying to push them more. I don't know what that necessarily means for anything moving forward, though.
Final Fantasy VII's never going to die.
I'm reading the post made by our own T-Hug, and it says here that both of the games include interesting stuff like 3x speed mode, no encounters, and battle enhancement mode, and both of the games have these features. And it's interesting because 3x speed mode sounds like how I play most of my JRPGs on emulators. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah. That's how I've been told to play the game, honestly. If I was going to play it, I feel like I would have to just skip through some of it because I don't know that I have the time to commit to a full JRPG.
Yeah, speaking of time, did you know that time and space are the same? And speaking of space, people don't have like a infinite amount of it on their hard drives. And it seems like Activision or whoever's in charge of Call of Duty realized this recently after their latest patch to Modern Warfare made their game around 260 gigabytes. I think that's the amount. The developers recently announced that they're going to incorporate some kind of patch or whatever that will allow you to uninstall parts of the game. So if you want to play Modern Warfare only for the single player, you can like choose not to install the multiplayer, and vice versa. If you want to play only Warzone, you can uninstall the single player.
Well, I'll say that I wrote a GBAtemp recommends article for Call of Duty Warzone back in May, I think, because I was playing a lot of it near the beginning of lockdown. And pretty much every single comment was people complaining about how big the game is and how they won't play it because it takes up too much space on their hard drive. Yeah, so it seems to be a big issue for a lot of people. I mean, I can understand why. It does completely monopolize your hard drive, and especially on the PS4, the way Sony slows down downloads, it can take forever. Even if I don't keep the game updated regularly, there have been times where I'll hop on to play a game with someone, and then there's an update, and it'll take at least 45 minutes before I can actually jump in and play with them. So
yeah, I agree. I mean, there's no real way around saying that. Yeah, I understand that the file sizes have to be gigantic, but at the same time, it's like, dude, I only have so much space, and I don't want Call of Duty to take up my entire system because that means that I have to either uninstall games or move them to a different hard drive. Yeah, I mean, it's obnoxious. I think it's cool that they're going to let you uninstall things that you don't like to reduce the file size, but I'm not going to go and say, wow, Activision really cares about my hard drive space, because clearly that's not the case.
yeah, it took them a long time to to get around to it. It seems like it was after it went over 250, because there were people that, if you had an older computer, it might come with a 250 SSD in it, or a hard drive even, and that meant that if you literally had it brand new, fresh install of Windows and only wanted Modern Warfare, you wouldn't be able to download it. Yep. Which is a bit much. It's pretty ridiculous.
This is a good time to mention that our podcast is sponsored by Google Stadia. So you can just go... Just kidding. Amazon Luna. Jeff Bezos is personally giving all of us $20,000 to shill for... I'm just kidding. I don't know.
I'll give you my Venmo.
So there are options if you're playing on PC to get a smaller Call of Duty file size. All you have to do is I know that there's methods to get, a cracked version where you can then, choose what to install. And there's nothing out there in the entire world that stops you from cracking a game. Or am I misstating that, Alan John?
Well, yes, actually, now that you say it, there is a thing called Digital Rights Management, or DRM for short, which basically stops people who haven't legitimately purchased software from using it.
Tell me more.
Now, DRM has been here for quite a long time, probably since the dawn of licensed software. But for a long time, it wasn't really that hard to crack. Basically, most of them requiring a license key in order to activate a product. Then, within a couple of hours of the software being released on the internet, you had people creating key gens in order to synthesize these keys in order to activate a product. Now, things became a little bit harder once online services such as Steam popped up, where the game activation was actually tied to online account, and basically you'd have to turn off your internet in order to activate some games. But still, the hackers prevailed, and virtually no PC game was left uncracked, with scene groups such as Skid Row, Codex, Steampunks, Conspiracy, Empress, and many more releasing cracks for PC games on the daily, sometimes even minutes after release. However, everything changed in 2014 once Denuvo hit the scene. Its DRM solution proved to be practically uncrackable. Games released with Denuvo, such as FIFA 15 and Lords of the Fallen, took months, if not years, to crack. Once scene groups got the hand of cracking Denuvo protected games, it almost seemed like Denuvo was one step ahead, constantly releasing new versions of their DRM, with each iteration being harder to crack than the previous. This is why in the past couple of years you might have heard discussions around PC piracy and whether or not it's dead because of Denuvo. And to be honest, the past couple of months, the hacking scene been quite barren with Denuvo games. Games such as Mafia Definitive Edition, Mortal Kombat 11, Death Stranding, and much more haven't been cracked until very recently. The scene group Empress, which is rumored to be one person, has cracked Mortal Kombat 11, Soul Calibur 6, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Tekken 7, and even Borderlands 3, all of which were on Denuvo. Just to give you an idea of how sophisticated Denuvo is as a DRM, Mortal Kombat 11 was uncracked for 532 days. This is the main reason why developers pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for the Denuvo protection, as it offers a guarantee of no cracks popping up in the first couple of months of the game's release, which statistically is when the game makes most of its revenue. However, it seems that Empress has found a crack in Denuvo's armor and has been exploiting it, sharing this information with other groups such as Conspiracy and Codex, which have successfully hacked Mafia Definitive Edition, which hasn't even been released for a month. You might be thinking, why should I care? I'm a PC gamer, but I don't pirate games. The thing is, developers usually remove the Denuvo DRM once their game has either been cracked or once a certain period of time has passed, as was the case with Resident Evil and Metro Exodus. Now, there's actually anecdotal evidence that suggests that removing Denuvo from a game reduces loading times and improves FPS, but empirical data shows for a fact that removing the DRM segment from a game's executable file reduces its file size by a margin of 200 to 300 megabytes. So not only is removing Denuvo good for filthy pirates, you know who you are, it's also good for legitimate PC gamers who always want to get the best possible performance out of their games, be it faster loading times or a 5 to 10 FPS increase. Now, if I recall correctly, as of the recording of this podcast, the most popular Denuvo games that haven't been cracked yet are Marvel's Avengers, Tony Hawk Pro Skater, and I think PES Soccer 21.
I wonder if the cracked version of PES football is just the 2020 version, and no one knows the difference. They just copy and paste. That is copy and paste their crack from last year.
Yeah, Ghost Runner was cracked day one, but that's not because it had Denuvo. It has no DRM actually. So yeah, games that release on GOG, for example, they don't have any DRM, which is why they usually show up on these websites very quickly.
Didn't Doom Eternal accidentally launch without any DRM? Bethesda just forgot to put it in.
Exactly. So here's the funny part. Doom Eternal actually uses Denuvo, and they accidentally uploaded the version without Denuvo on Steam.
Jeez.
Pretty great. Pretty awesome.
Jeez.
But they still use Denuvo for the multiplayer, and there was like an entire scandal about that because it went down to your kernel level or something, like Ring 0.
Well, yeah, it was. They added in later after launch the Denuvo anti-cheat. I don't think it was the anti-DRM or the anti-piracy stuff specifically, but yeah, that took over some kind of controls on people's computers that they were really mad about.
What's your guys' opinion on DRM? I know Eric has like a strong anti-DRM opinion.
No, I don't. What are you talking about?
Yes, you do.
Do I?
Or is it Steven? One of you.
It was me. It
Oh
was
my
me.
God.
I was about to counter what Steven says. No, I'm like, listen, if you're gonna pirate, go for it. Whatever, I don't care. But
That is not legal advice, by the way. He's not a lawyer yet.
that's not legal advice. It's not. It's just like whatever. Whatever. But don't get mad at companies for trying to stop you from getting their shit for free. I mean, like, I understand that DRM is inconvenient. Because it is inconvenient, and it's inconvenient because of pirates. So if nobody pirated anything, there would be no DRM. So, hot take, but that's what it is. I don't like it either, but at the same time, you have to understand why they're doing this. It's not because they hate you. it's because people aren't buying their stuff. Steven, counter me.
No, I actually agree with you. As much as I love the DRM free stuff on GOG and all that, like, I understand why companies put it in. I don't hold it against them in any way, but I do like when, I don't know, they just have enough respect for the customer to let us actually own the things that we buy, you know? And
Yeah.
that's something I really like, and I have a lot of respect for people that trust their audience and they can, you know, that they can just put it out and but it is a lot easier for indies, like, because I feel like people are just more likely to buy those games anyway rather than pirate them.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I do get annoyed by the people that revel in piracy, that like there's a website that is specifically for GOG piracy, like where they just upload the exact files you can download from GOG, and I don't know, people like cheering at, you know, the Denuvo stuff getting cracked, and if you pirate stuff, that's fine. I've never done it, certainly, but like I just don't I don't know, I do get slightly annoyed at people that are that like joyous about it and like take such pleasure in scamming things or stealing from people or whatever, right? Like, it's just, if you're gonna do it, at least have a little bit of taste and class and not rub it in everyone's face.
See, that's sort of the thing. It's like, if you pirate, I genuinely don't care. But it's when you pirate and you say, like, it's morally all right to do it. Like, oh, yeah, well, I pirate because I'm doing it to test the games and maybe I'll buy it in the future. It's like, dude, if you're pirating, you're stealing, own up to it. Just own up to it is my opinion on that. I'm like, I don't care. Just don't pretend that you have the moral high ground, because I don't think that you do. I'm not mad at you about it. Go for it. Don't, you know, if you don't think that the companies deserve your money, all right, you could think that. But at the same time, know that you're
But at least be
you're playing
honest.
stuff for free. Be
Be
honest.
honest,
you
yeah.
know? You're lying to yourself.
Yeah, Alan John's really quiet during all this, where he's getting pissed. We're getting right under his
like,
skin.
these motherfuckers.
All right, guys, thank you for listening to the official GBAtemp podcast, episode 9. I hope you enjoyed our discussion. Be sure to like us on YouTube. Write a comment down, like if you want us to talk about something specific next episode. I don't care. Also, subscribe to our YouTube. Also, if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, be sure to leave us a review there and on Google Podcasts and wherever you get your podcast from. This is Alan John signing off, and goodbye.
Bye.
Yeah.